produced by Tony Aaron II and Chris Carthern. Welcome to Beyond the Frame Triggers. The concept of Beyond the Frame is something I came up with a long time ago. It's just basically like taking you behind the scenes of the making of an independent project and kind of talk about the concepts, the principles, the trials and tribulations, etc. Everything from second order thinking to just, managing a budget. We'll go through all that and kind of try to give people some insight so that we can increase the diversity and the representation in this industry through sharing information. Visual effects. So first of all of the snow in Triggers is visual effect. None of it's real, but these shots, these aerial shots of the hotel were actually recorded right after it just finished hailing. So it was a little bit of rain and then it hailed, and literally as soon as that was done, I was actually recording during the rain and then right afterward, and we used the shots from afterward, and then we changed it to snow. But this is real moisture on the ground, but the snow is a visual effect, and it's actually 3D effect done in 2D program. I just did this in After Effects. But yeah, so I'm not going to be going into super detail about the snow. Actually, what we're going to talk about is the rain. So the effect for the rain, you're going to see more of this. Well, quick though, I will tell you, this is the effect for the rain. This is also visual effects. And I actually remember when I talked to Chris about visual effects, we were on video chat and he had a really straight look on his face. It was actually kind of funny. And he just didn't give me anything. I didn't know if he believed me when I told him we could do it or not. He just kind of sat there with a straight look on his face. But yeah, this is a two-dimensional effect that then has to be tilted and moved into three-dimensional space, right? So this is the movie, and this kind of shows you, again, here's your snow, and all of these are at different angles, so we had to use techniques to be able to make that work. Also, green screen is also a visual effect. So that's actually literally the exact real setup and the distance and the lighting and everything. And then this is the pull we got on it. It's a very good green screen pull. Here we are back in After Effects. So this is how I actually shot the scene. It's actually got a little bit of blue tint to it because it's gonna go through this glass here. Now this is my glass element. It's got real smudges and dirt on it. This is the actual rain element that's actually rolling down the glass. This is a 2D shot, but I actually had to do this in 3D space too. And then I did a separate shot where I closed the door. So this is the real door from the outside. We just cut the window out of it. And it's on top of the glass. And then there's another little thing in there that I missed, which is just adding the out of focus rain in the foreground. But it's actually pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. And so you get a really, especially from the interiors, a very believable effect it's not minimal effort, but it's intelligent effort. And that's kind of what we go for with our visual effects is, how can we create something that's real and do it efficiently and intelligently and do it in a way that can be repeated, right? I don't want to just have to use exterior shots. I want to be able to move that effect in three-dimensional space, to put it on the inside, windows and that type of thing. I want to be able to have the camera move and have the snow track in three-dimensional space off of the camera movement. Indie movie visual effects. Screenwriting. I am a person of very big goals and perspectives and things, and I think the screenwriting goal may have been the one that would just sound the most objectively outrageous, but I don't like writing content that doesn't get immediately produced, be it scripts or anything else. And so my actual goal for myself as a screenwriter was to put myself in a position where everything that I wrote would get produced within a few weeks of it being written. And so now as a screenwriter, I actually write the scripts over the course of about 3 to 5 days, a couple hours a day maybe, within probably 2 weeks of production, of like the first day of production. That's Watson. But yeah, it was just the goal of I want to really be able to write in the moment, in the time, of what's happening in the world in that context, and then have it be produced, in that space and finished as quickly as possible, so it's as relevant as possible when it's released. And one of the many goals that was outrageous but attainable. I know.
So every time we start a new project and we reach out to actors or actresses that are interested in being involved, no matter how much of detailed story we give them, they always ask to see the script. And our script are never done at this point in the process. And we have a very good reason for that. It's because we don't know what resources we're going to have to make the project yet. So there's no point in writing this script out if we don't know what locations we're going to be able to get. So until we know what resource we have, we don't write a script. It's more efficient that way, instead of having to write a script and then completely rewrite it later, once you actually know what resources you're going to have. And also it helps us because, we're responding to social injustices. So we can always include the most current events. And social injustice happen every single day. And if we wrote the script 6 months ago, there's definitely something more recent that is pertinent to our story that has happened. And it's really, our script is dictated by our resources and whatever our budget can accommodate. It makes sense, and it's all a part of the lean production method that Tony has developed over the many years that he's been in the business, in the industry.
As we see the beginning of the kitchen scene scroll up on the screen there, first of all, let me say, this is the last time you're going to hear my voice in this section, because I was Chris's public speaking mentor, if you will, over the last few years, and he got so good at it that there's no space for me to talk in this section anymore other than this. I mean, even in the casting section, he talked over the whole damn thing. So I'm not even in that joint. In the notes I am, not in the actual show. I think that actually speaks to the screenwriting thing I wanted to say, which is just like anybody could do this. It just takes really understanding what you're trying to accomplish and really having some principles and goals. And my principle is no exposition, say what you mean. Characters don't have, if your character has to be stupid for your story to be good, then your story is stupid and your characters are, stupid instruments of a stupid story. And so, whether it was the experience on set or the experience actually writing this movie, I mean, it was all about being real, being honest. Heather's this tremendous, transcendent character who was born to this less than mediocre white father. And she has to deal with that.
So we look at the script for the kitchen scene. I'm going to say it because Tony knows I like to say it, but bars. That's all I really have to say is bars. The entire script for Triggers was special. It's written for America in 2018. But if you break it all down, it still applies today. You have this liberal budding star combating her conservative father. And everything that she's saying, you can clearly see that Heather is the present and the future of American leadership, while her father really never was. She's not even the past. And she's clearly exhibited way more leadership than her father. And you really see that she's the one that should be running for office and not him. I mean, if you go down the script where, you kind of see her values. And she's saying she's not going to accept anything willed that avoids the estate tax. When she was increasing the prices of school vending machines to help pay for school supplies for less fortunate students, that's leadership. That is leadership right there. And then she talks about she wants equality for everyone, actual equality, and she wants wealth redistributed to the poor. And she hates guns. I'm on board with Heather. Sign me up. I'm voting for her right now. She's laid out her political campaign. This is her political campaign right here. And she's already beaten Peter with just her values. She hasn't even started campaigning yet, and she already has my vote. And I thought that this was really special, to see that play out. Let's take him to the kitchen. This scene was special. It's so special that when me and Tony talk about it, we just refer to it as the kitchen. And the dialogue was really, I might be biased, call me biased, but the dialogue was perfectly written. And it was delivered in a very precise and specific manner that Tony directed. And I think that the emotional impact that you feel it on the screen. You can kind of feel this younger and more liberal generation taking over from this older conservatives. And it represents where we are today. And I imagine this took place like on a news segment. You would walk away feeling like Heather was the future leader of America. And it's funny because I met one of these like white Republicans this summer at my company. I'm pretty outspoken, so everybody knows my views and everything like that. And we were having a discussion, and I could kind of tell that he was a Republican. So I asked him a couple questions, and then he said he was married to a black woman. And he had a daughter that identified as black. She's, brown skin. And I asked him what she thinks about your views. And he said, well, she's interning with the DNC. I said, that's not a coincidence. She is Heather. You're Peter. She is directly going against your political views. Directly. And I thought that was kind of cool because it's like I was seeing what we shot, what we made, what we produced play out in real life 2.5 years later. That's another reason why it's special, because it's, like I said, it's relevant. I remember being on set for the kitchen scene, and Tony was stressing the importance of the scene to everyone, and also the fact that we couldn't break it up into multiple takes, and to splice it together, it had to be one continuous take. So that added to like the stress. And I remember having this beautifully lit scene where there was a reflection of the scene in the TV. I was looking at the TV and also looking at the screen as Tony was shooting the scene. And I remember being nervous a little bit. I was nervous just because everyone had to be on point. It was a lot of dialogue they had to get through, but the performances were exactly as Tony directed it. After the scene, I just remember being able to look at Tony. We both were ecstatic, and he says, this is the greatest scene I've ever shot. And I remember embracing each other and kind of being emotional. We had reached a standard of quality that we know we could do the whole time, but we needed everyone to be on board and everyone to be on the same page as us. And that's why the scene was special. And it wasn't movie magic. It wasn't some Hollywood fake crap that says, oh, this is just movie magic. It was written well, produced well. It was acted well, directed well, graded well, edited well. It's not movie magic. It was hard work. Everyone did their part. And when everyone does their part and listens, this is what we can do on a regular basis. So it was a very, very powerful moment for us in the studio in general.
You remember Mom, right? Your ex-wife, my mother. It's taking everything in me right now not to come across this table at you the same way she did.
That's not called for. I'm your father.
The bullets match. It's the same gun. I spoke to a friend who spoke to a cop she knows. They've kept it off the news, but it's the same gun.
Okay, well, it's not our place. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Dad, do you remember when I said I won't accept anything from you willed to me that avoids the estate tax?
Yes. I said we weren't rich and I'm not dead.
Do you remember when I told you that my best friend came out as gay?
Yeah. Day before your 14th birthday party.
And do you remember me leading the push on the student council to increase the prices of the school vending machines to help pay for school supplies for the less fortunate students?
Yes, I do. First time your name appeared in the paper. Article still on my desk at the campaign office.
Well, I remember when you spoke at those restaurants, you said if you ran, even though you're already speaking at restaurants, you would do so for family values because I was what was most important to you.
You know you are, baby. I'm just having a hard time navigating it all right now.
If I'm what's most important, and I don't want free, untaxed money, I want equality for everyone, real equality. I want to redistribute wealth to the poor, and I hate guns. How the hell are you navigating being a conservative for me?
Okay, I am not having this conversation with you again.
Yeah. My father. The politician. The coward.
This is gonna be really bad.
Second order thinking is the principle of considering the consequences and unintended consequences of an action. And people don't do that enough, but we do that in everything. And we also do it in our screenwriting. So I wanted to use this scene from Triggers as an introduction to the concept, and we'll go into more detail about it later. Let's check it out.
I want to make a statement.
No, you do not.
I'm gonna make a statement.
No, you are not.
I'm the boss. It's my campaign. I'm making a statement.
Thoughts and prayers.
For a Girl Scout?
And a transsexual. So you really want to do this right now? Okay. Mr. Peter Shaver, sir, aspiring conservative politician from Oklahoma, are you aware of the death of the transgender person yesterday?
Yes.
How do you feel about the loss? This was the entire transgender community of Kevin, Oklahoma.
Well, I'm...
Sir, I'm the liberal left, and your murmuring and stuttering only fuels my desire for the facts.
I don't think they would say that.
Okay, I'll just put you down for doesn't know what to say about the gay and the Girl Scout, sir.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk
How
about.
do you feel about guns, sir?
Huh?
Little girl murdered?
It's not about...
She was shot, sir.
What does that have to do with guns?
If elected, what do you plan to do about gun violence legislatively? I mean, for the children, sir.
No, wait, hold on. We said in the beginning of the campaign we weren't going to discuss gun legislation.
Where do you think your commenting is going to lead? Conversations about knitting patterns or the weather? Seriously, Peter, we're at 23% in the polls. Name recognition is up 4 points in a week. In a week. We just need to let this blow over. They always do. And then we can come back to it from a position of strength. Maybe in a debate or something, and we can separate little Lori from the extra stuff.
Editing. The first thing in the movie industry that I got good at. Editing has a lot of different levels to it, particularly the way I do it, being the editor and the graphic artist and the colorist and the sound designer and one of the composers, etc. But we're gonna break down some different levels of indie movie editing. So here we have 2 scenes from the movie. We've got a newscast with 2 different scenes. I did all the effects, the graphics for this, everything. First of all, Don't Trust Him version 8, my favorite score for the movie, favorite track. But let's break this down. So it's gonna go back in a second, and boom, here we go. Here we have the shot. I put a little grid on top of the shot and color graded it green, and then boom, we drop our bottom third on the bottom. There's actually a little error in that I fixed, and I don't know how it's still there. But yeah, this is, and then don't forget to notice up at the top his social media profile, boyfriend loophole. So now here we go. This is how we shot our news footage. So they're both sitting in a chair in my studio apartment. Same exact spot, same lighting in the background, everything. There you go, you see? So we're gonna take this, I'm feeding them the lines in the same cadence. This is partly directing that the other spoke in. So then we put this on screen and it seems like they're listening to and talking to each other. Divide it up, put it on each side of the screen, crop, and now we're gonna send that over to After Effects and we do a green screen pull on just that section of the footage. And then this is the original bottom third I created based on the Chris Hayes show and some other stuff inspired. I didn't really like it, so I redid it, and that's how we end up with our final product.
I also, and we'll have to come back to this, just received official confirmation that the deaths of Brooklyn Arojo and Lori Michelle Milner have both been declared murders by the same killer. Again, the gun used in the murders has been determined to be the same weapon, a handgun of some kind, shot from close range.
Casting is really something that we don't use ordinary industry methods, especially like, we don't have actors and actresses coming in to audition or reading improv line, anything like that. We have video chats with people, and we're looking for presence, explain what we're about, why we doing what we're doing, and explain our, directing styles. We just want to know that you're able to work with us and that you have a presence that can be captured on screen. And this is why we video chat. Want to be able to view a person's body language as we're speaking with them. And we already knew that Tahir was funny. We thought he'd be really good cast for Rush Jones, but we also need to make sure that he's down to follow our direction, because the character was made in such a specific way that you have to follow direction to really be able to capture that character as it was created. And I remember talking to Tony after he spoke with Emily, and he said that if this woman moved to LA right now, she'd be a star. And whenever he said stuff like that, I really pay attention. And true enough, every single scene that she was in from the very beginning, she nailed it. He was right. Hollywood is sleeping. And then I remember Derek played Peter. We worked with him previously on a previous project, and Tony's like, he can do Peter. And Tony really was right about this, and he worked with him to get to the level to be able to be a lead in the movie. And he really took everything Tony was saying, and he did the job. That was a good cast. And campaign manager Christine, I remember she wasn't even the first person we casted, and she was a backup that we ended up having to call after the first person wasn't able to really take on the role in the way that we asked. And Tony had that back in his mind. Hey, I know this person. She came right in, and I could immediately tell that she was gonna kill the role. Coming in late after we already been shooting, picking up the script and just running with it. So when we talk about our casting process, it's really going over like how we work and explaining our, style. Tony's directing style. He's very direct, very detailed, and also explain our message. What are we about? And if they agree with all those things, generally they can be casted. We take out all that, BS, have people jumping through hoops to get a role or making people wait in line to get a role. It's not your turn yet. No, if you can work with us, we can work with you.
First of all, let's introduce the idea of what pre-scoring is to the people.
Yeah.
So you want to do the honors, or you want me to do it? How you want to? This is Otis Jones, by the way, the one and only. trying to show me up. I'm wearing company gear. He don't even have a company shirt. He don't even care. He gonna stunt on me with the Pink Panther situation. I didn't even know. I thought we was being professional. And then when he talking about, I'm not feeling well, I'm like, all right. And then we get on camera and you all loaded up on me. It's like, okay. Okay. So this is you not feeling. I get it now. See, now I see the stunt.
I can be ill and look good. It's fine.
Some people would call that being ill.
Yes. I'm embodying a pun right now.
Not the one you think, though. So it's all good. So tell us, you want to do the honors? You want me to do it? Who's
I'll talk about it. So pre-scoring is effectively making a score for the movie before that actually starts to be made. So when everyone's getting scripts, I get the script as well, and I get to read through it and then look at the scenes, kind of get a sense of what's going to be going on and the vibe of it, and kind of tempos and things like that. And then I basically create a series of tracks and scores for various sections as different ideas for flavors that we will end up being used later on in the movie, and that are sometimes played. You played them for the actors in certain scenes, or to set the mood as well.
Yeah,
for certain scenes.
It's just good information.
Yeah,
I've written to the pre-score before. Like I've played it while I was writing the rest of the script and stuff. So
yeah,
so all kinds of things. We have what it's. I actually say this in a later section that we recorded earlier today. we have a thing called pre-production, then we have pre-production, and then we have production, and then we have here at Mr. Dinner Studios, and then we have post-production. Pre-production is just getting the machinery running in the direction of making a movie. We get our pre-score going. We start getting locations and all this. Like we just start feeling out and just figuring out what our budget's going to be. That's what we call pre-production. It's our first official phase of production. Then we go into pre-production, which is finalizing things. And pre-production for us happens right before. I mean, like the week before we start shooting. Everything before that is in the pre-production phase. And then we do production. So pre-production is a very technical phase. Pre-production is the only creative phase. Production is about execution. And then post-production is about either finalizing or resurrecting if you've done things wrong. That's how we look at everything. I just gave you all 3 streams of separate information that were all layered together because that's how we do them, but you really need to actually break them apart if you're learning these things for the first time, which most of you will be. And so, like I said, pre-scoring fits actually in our pre-production phase, hence why they're both called pre's. And it's like a thing of like really, if part of what's so great about movies is music, why would you wait until after the movie's been made? That makes no sense at all. Like, if so much of the value of a movie lies in its music, why wait until the end? It's not about I didn't say value to the audience. I said value, period. Why wait until after you've made the movie to give yourself, your team, the value of music? That was the simple logic behind the creation of our pre-scoring, concept.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this for a long, long time. I was doing this myself years and years ago. Otis has been our, composer and also specifically pre-scoring composer for it's been 2.5 years already? 2 years, 2.5 years?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
First movie that got completed that you did a score or pre-score for is Triggers. And in that one, due to a series of stupid events, not stupid, but unfortunate events, Lemony Snicket type stuff, your score doesn't get used, but you still have the pre-score credit. But yeah, and also Otis, just for the record, full disclosure, Otis and I are make music together separate from the movies. We're actually in the process of making a just ground shaking album called What is Black Power. That, by the way, Otis, there's a track that one of my score tracks for this movie, the only one I made that didn't make the movie, straight up sounds like it needs to be on that album.
Sweet.
It's not finished or anything, but it's just like you can hear it and hear like, oh, I can see how the person who made this would go on a year later to produce What is Black Power,
Yeah.
So that as soon as this is over, remind me, I'm gonna play it for you so you can.
Cool.
It's totally set up to like bring in to Otisify it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With the guitar situation, and the stuff for the lovely, you flicker the little magic on it for the ladies and everything. your music based situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity and all the stuff that we're doing for us to like just bring quality music. So that's just a little background so that people understand that like there's even the rhythmic nature of the music and everything. It does sound like music because it is music and movie music and music shouldn't be these estranged cousins who one of them is too pretentious for the other, and people who can do this one don't feel like they're welcome on this side. And it's like, I didn't even know like scales. I had no training, and I wasn't gonna let anybody tell me I wasn't welcome anywhere in the music game. Here I am working with this super talented, trained dude, and I'm the boss. I'm like, nigga, look, you know what I mean? We just got, bust up in there. So I'm saying that to explain to the people your journey from underrating yourself as a musician to 2 weeks later sitting in a movie theater watching your own music play in a movie.
Yeah.
In a real movie theater.
Yes, yeah. So we started when we first met. It was because you needed a bit of scoring done for the movie Psychopaths. We needed.
Stop using that word because you get Chris excited every time you say that flipping word. And he already brought. Go ahead.
Okay, so we needed some music doing for a movie called Psychopaths. I'm sorry, and it was only like one section. I think it was literally like 2 minutes of music. But I kind of went in. At that time, I had a very kind of like rigid idea about kind of what movie music had to be and what it had to be for this film, if that makes sense.
Movie. We don't shit on film.
Yeah, okay.
Film is exclusionary. It's not for the people.
Yeah.
It's purposefully made expensive. Digital is the way to go. It's democratizing. We don't make films, we make movies.
So made that, you put it in the movie, and then it was being shown in a theatre in Harrogate, which was near where I was living at the time. So I came over all.
Harrogate's in England, for those of you who aren't cool enough to know that.
So I came over all excited and got to meet you in person for the first and only time, which is weird to think about.
I got to meet you in person for the first and only time, which is weirder to think about because I love you more than you love me.
Wow, that's not true. But
it is true. I love Otis more than Otis. However much Otis loves me, I love him that much +1. I'm petty about my loving Otis.
But then I walk to get into the theatre, and then I remember because it was one of the ones with like the nice sofas and stuff, and there was like a single seater that I kind of sat in near the front, and I remember you were like, "Do you want to like be further back?" I was like, "No, I'm good."
I just walk in a movie theater, and you know how. So first, he don't know anything. If it's your movie, you sit in the best seats. Or you sit in the back because you too fucking cool to deal with the people. You know what I'm saying? I walk in, this goofy ass motherfucker sitting in the front row like this. And I'm like, the theater was packed. The whole thing was packed. We sold the whole thing out. But I'm like, yo man, like you better go debo one of these white folks and get you a good seat in this fucking movie theater. You know what I'm saying? Don't let these white people tell you can't get the best seat for your movie. And I'm like, you good. And he was trying. Here's what's crazy. He was trying to be cool. That's what made it so weird. Was he was just. And I just like, Otis, you look crazy, dog. I ain't gonna say nothing though. I was just gonna go sit down in the back. But it was unmistakable. It's almost like that kid has never been to the movies before. You know what I mean? Like that's what it looked like. Like he just heard about this place. And now he's rolled up in one and he don't even realize it's like the magic can be better from a better seat. Well, there's no such thing as a better seat, We're all in the, And I'm like, you listen to me. If I go to see some stuff I worked on and I'm sitting in the front row, that's one of them racist Hollywood movies I worked on. That's not an accident. You can't do that to me. I don't give a damn if I was the production assistant. I'm getting a good seat. Or you gonna put the black man in the front row? That would be me. Like the moment I walked in. What you trying to say? Because I was late, that's the only seat available. So the black man got to be late and sit in the front row. But Otis I get an opportunity to go sit with the two producers. Like if he's one row away from the front, It's gonna go away. It's not gonna happen. I'm sorry I'm harping on this. It was weird. You had to be there. And if you work in the industry, you understand what I'm saying about like nobody who works on movies watches movies from the front row of the movie theater. It is literally, physiologically, a bad way to watch a movie. He didn't know that. But 2 weeks into his career, he's sitting in a real movie theater in the second most expensive city in England, or second wealthiest city in England, something like that, watching his own work on a screen. It took me, how many years? It took me 10 years or something like that to get to that spot. To 11, 12. Otis is there in 2 weeks. That's what happens when you're pretty and light skinned. Am I right? Am I right to my dark skinned brothers? Am I right? Go ahead, Otis.
Watch it, and it was all good, and I was like waiting for like, oh, my bit's coming up soon. And then like, yeah, my bit my bit comes and goes, and I'm thoroughly enthralled. And then later on we work on some we move on to other projects that eventually didn't see the light of day.
Oh, let me just say, man, that score you made for the beginnings of the score for the murder mystery was fantastic. And the theme that you made for the adventure movie was just like transcendent. Like that was just oh my god.
That was the space one, wasn't it?
No. Remember we were going back to England to make the adventure movie, and then we didn't get to, but you made the theme for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give away the concept because we might make it again later, but that, oh my gosh, that was so. Rarely do I have regrets about failing, right? Because I just look at it like, first of all, it didn't fail because of me, not my fault. And let's get to work. Let's move on to the next thing. I don't care whose feelings are hurt or whatever. Okay, they don't like me anymore. Fine, get out of here. Literally, I'm not joking. Maybe the only thing that truly caused me to have regret about the up and down nature of trying to kind of restart this thing with Chris on board and having to kind of relearn lessons and stuff for him was it wasn't his fault, but not getting to make that adventure movie. Literally, only not because the concept was so great, not because that fucking theme was so perfect and beautiful. It was a $100 million movie theme made for my shit. Like I never, like, you know what I mean? Never, Otis. So, props.
Thank you. But yeah, went from like project didn't quite see the light of day until I think all of those were kind of, it was all still like pre-scoring. It was all kind of, they're finding like themes and vibes for the movie and stuff. And what happened was that over time, the more I worked on it, and the more like kind of scripts I got to read through and then interpret through the audio, I became more and more confident with the decisions that I was making. Because like I said, the first one I was like, oh, it's kind of got to be this sound, it's got to have these string sounds and this kind of synthy sound and for like atmosphere and whatnot. But then eventually I was kind of like, okay, I'm making the music, I can make decisions on what sounds I want to use, what tempos a certain scene is going to have, and I can influence the movie. And that can be like, it's like my contribution rather than have to be like, oh, I've got to make sure it's right for Tony, because Tony knows what's he does the film.
And the Tony you're talking about is this like egalitarian, white dude from the 1850s who wants that kind of music in your head. It's not even the actual Tony who's being like, dude, like, find your voice, Otis.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we make, and we make music together that's so great, and then you get over here and you're so clammed up or whatever. But yeah, like that's the process, and it's a thing that so many people have sort of heard mentioned, I guess, in certain ways or other ways, but very few people have ever lived it, and really very few people ever take the time to go back and walk anyone through it. Which we'll be doing over time. We're not going to do that exclusively and explicitly here. We're just sort of introducing concepts in this first Beyond the Frame, but we will actually select certain tracks that we made for movies, pre-score or otherwise, and actually go in and break them down and talk about, how they were put together and why. Not to say that they're perfect, not to say they were even great. I mean, we might look back 20 years later and see that they weren't that great, but the more important thing is to show the progress.
Yeah.
And that was definitely the process we went through. There was a lot of giving support. There was a lot of, just trying to empower Otis to, and it's not even just, I mentioned the white man thing a couple times because, like, seriously, almost all these composers are white men. And so if you're a woman, if you're a non-white man, you gotta understand that if you have good taste in music, if you create good music, your perspective matters. Mm-hmm. The only reason you haven't heard music you make in movies is because you haven't gotten to make the music in movies. It's not because the music you make or the music you hear in your head is unsatisfactory. See? It's because your contribution has been excluded. So the only thing you need to do to legitimate your contribution is make music that you know is good.
Yeah.
That's it. See, you don't have to make music that 1850s white guy would have said was good or would have thought was good or would have, post-death would have become famous for. No, you don't need any of that. What gets you out of bed today? That fits the theme of the scene or the theme of the movie that you're working on.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, and it's super gratifying as well as someone who doesn't know much about stuff behind the camera or acting and stuff, to be able to think that if you're playing a piece of music that I made for a scene, if you're playing that and using it to influence the scene, I can kind of look at the scene and be like, okay, yeah, I influenced that, I had some contribution to that through my music, and that's it's very gratifying.
Speaking of which, if our 6 new fans would like to do me a favor, please get in the comments and motivate Otis to contribute more and influence more on the Playa score, because it's set in Mexico and he already made one of the very important tracks in the movie, but there's no such thing as too much Otis in the composition of the music of a movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like the female orgasm. It's the more the merrier. It's evergreen. So just get in there, just whisper sweet nothings in his ear. Tell him how much you like him more than me, and you mean it, and he'll believe you because it's true. And let's get his ass involved. Just lather that, you know what I mean? Just lather that shit on there. So Otis is like, you don't know this about yourself yet, but I'm not even gonna say it. I'm gonna save it. It was outrageous. I'm gonna save that one.
Okay.
Continue, Mr. Oman. So let me say, so now I will say this. My journey to creating good music, I think, is more relevant than Otis's, because I still don't know how to play an instrument, even though I can produce good music and I can hear instruments. I can literally tell Otis exactly what to play. I just don't literally know how to play it, right? And I didn't get there through, I literally learned everything I know, note, tone, everything, through rhythm, because it is all technically, mathematically rhythmic. Notes, tones, everything. And I went from knowing nothing to being pretty good. Otis, being that he plays instruments and he's such a natural, and that sense, that sort of archetype is not literal, but I don't know that translates as well to everybody, because there's people who are watching this who don't know how to play instruments.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think that it's super valuable. One, unfortunately, when Otis, you're 25 now?
7. 27.
27? I thought, okay, I got it backwards. So I said, so it was at 25 that you had the diagnosis.
or 6. So
Okay.
12, yeah. 25 or 26.
Okay, so in that range.
Yeah.
So Otis has, he's technically has a disability now. It's what's it? Say it for me because I don't want to mess it up. So,
Psoriatic arthritis.
there you go. And that struck the first place you felt it, if I'm not mistaken, was in your hands. When you're trying to play the guitar.
Yeah.
And so that, and the fact that he, even though he had these beautiful, skills to actually play instruments and stuff, the fact that he lacked that confidence and that perspective to understand how broad his contribution could be to the world of music, and how he could do movies and he could do, album with me and an album on his own and all this, and I'll have these all things sound totally different. I think that is a really good sort of message for people to get, that even the people that they look up to and they go, man, that guy could just do a jam session on Instagram and everything. Like literally his mistakes sound better than the whole track I made that night, or just him just playing through and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so hot. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to, the string is not, I'm trying to get the string on right. Trying to make sure all the strings are, and you're like, what? That guy or woman, what, still didn't have the perspective of what all they can contribute and what their value could be. And so hearing that message from that space to now I'm your, there's people who are going to look up to you. There's people who are going to buy the score just to hear your music. It's important that they kind of be able to see it wasn't that you really needed to grow as much as a composer as it was you needed to grow as a person and understanding your value.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that that's what I hope people take from this. Obviously the concept of pre-scoring is great, but if you don't have a concept of yourself as having value in this arena, then these things are not going to translate to you,
Yeah.
So.
Sure.
Yeah. So what else do you want to tell the people about? No pressure.
Oh yeah, that was it. There was so obviously, like I said, we worked on a number of movies beforehand, which kind of didn't see the light of day.
Sacrifice
Yes.
by the great Otis Jones. Thank you for your patience.
And it was kind of tough to be making all this stuff, and I could see myself getting better and more confident and growing musically
and more valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
But not receiving any value in return for that.
Well, in that was just it. The value was the kind of the growth that I was making, and knowing that what we were working on was going to lead somewhere great.
And also, but to be clear with people too, that's true. I'm happy that you know that. But even if it wasn't, your growth was great. And that has value, and that enables you to go places you could not have gone before.
Yeah.
So, even if you're working in a situation where stuff doesn't come out or stuff doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that the growth that you just experienced and all the work that you put in has no value. That's only the case if you don't build on that.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, in this case, we can build on the growth and the work of failed projects and previously by continuing to work together and continuing to have faith in each other. But that may not always be the case for most people.
Yeah.
Right? But again, that still doesn't mean that the value you accrued within yourself doesn't have value. It just means, now you have more to work with, and you just need to find an avenue, to value you, for you to express it and for you to, make the most of it. But sorry, continue. Not everybody is in our position. I want to speak to how to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, because I know a lot here, artists are kind of exploited in a way, asked to just effectively work for exposure or whatever, or experience. I think it's also important to be able to distinguish okay, this is going to be a really good growth experience, even if I don't gain anything financially, or if it goes wrong and I don't have stuff to show for it, versus this person or company, whatever, is just going to get some free work out of me. kind of thing.
Right.
And that's kind
I mean,
yeah.
One thing, don't overestimate your own value, right? If you suck, you're gonna work with other people who suck and try to make each other better.
Yeah.
Right. But if you do have, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I was fucking awful when I started. I was terrible as a musician.
Me too.
Terrible.
I was really
You know?
bad. Yeah.
It's just atrocious. You know what I'm saying? But literally every week I was improving. Sometimes session to session, right? And that says a lot about how much improvement I had to do, because I started making music like 17 years. I started making music when I was 18 years old. I just turned 36, right? So, but yeah, we have to like keep an accurate view of who we are.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
where we are. And by the way, you could be great and still have not done any of the work needed for you to have great opportunities. So if the only people who offer you opportunity are people who aren't as great as you, that's the situation you in. Make the most of it. And again, see it as that growth opportunity. You know, unfortunately, you know, that's all of our realities until we have another reality.
Yeah. It's funny. Speaking of like starting out and sucking, I have because I remember when I was first starting like recording music.
1 second, I'm sorry, just a technical question. Are you still recording in Logic? Everything good?
Yep, all good.
Great. All right, go ahead.
Cool.
Sorry.
Funny stories about like when I first started like recording stuff. Because I remember that the first bit of recording I did, I was like, I feel like recording music, and like I think I just picked up the bass for the first time, and I was like,
string or guitar?
Guitar. Electric
I know,
bass.
but I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the first like bit of recording I did, that we had, like the house I was staying at while I was I trained as a dancer, and we had like a basement. And
if you don't notice, he's talking about how he's a trained pretty guy, light-skinned pretty guy. He's also a trained musician. And then he just like throw away, I trained as a dancer. At some point he might mention that he's doing vocal training right now. You know, I'm just saying, if you're looking for a hero, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, but so I was, we had this basement, and I had a bass amp that I ran like my I had a keyboard as well, because I play piano and stuff, so I had a keyboard that I ran through the bass amp, and had a like 60 quid USB microphone that I just kind of stuck in front of it, and recorded it into Audacity. Yes, the faces that you're making.
I'm assuming I don't know. Like, what was the point of running the piano through the bass amp?
Listen, these are the things that past Otis didn't think about. Okay.
So you're saying you did that without any idea of why you were doing it? I thought you were saying it was like you were going for like a create a sound or something.
No, I was an idiot. I think in my mind, I think it was like, because like in my mind, like, the speakers and the piano aren't very good, and if I put it through the bass amp, it's like from like one, it's like a better position for the mic and stuff. I don't know, but and like I recorded that like into Audacity, like straight into Audacity. I still have the music that I created. Like I still have like all of like the quote unquote albums that I made of stuff, and it sounds rough. But so that was like the first thing I did, and then the second one, in a way, it's almost kind of worse, because I was like slightly getting better, but making like really stupid mistakes. So that first thing like wasn't mixed at all. Like no like EQ. What's that?
Oh yeah, seriously. The fact that, especially when you learn music in non-traditional ways, the fact that there's like a literal EQ balance to good music is just outrageous.
Yeah, it's insane. And
and that's actually how you pick what instruments complement each other.
Yeah.
But it's like, Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so the second piece of the second like album I made, I had a free copy of, it was like the light version of Cubase. So I had like some more like
The light version.
Do you know what I mean?
So what is this? This is triangular or something?
It was
not even
because it's like it was like
square?
AI elements or something. So it's like Cubase and then Cubase AI, and then it came free within.
And then the elements. Okay,
Yeah.
jeez. All right.
Yeah, and so that had like, it had some like EQ stuff that was kind of a bit more easily accessible, and what happened? This is what I did. So I would have like, I had more layered instruments, right? So I have like a couple of layered guitars, and so I had like, say I had like 2 guitars playing. So in my mind, I was looking at the EQ, and I was like, okay, well, so you need like have like the guitars come to like different bands and stuff. So on like this was like my version of mixing. I kind of clicked on one EQ band, about like I think probably like 400 hertz. Yep. And then clicked on the other one, about 800 hertz. Yep. Let's go. And that was that. Sounds so bad.
I'm just not understand. Here's the thing. When I found out about those things, I didn't immediately think, let me just turn them up and I'm good to go. Like,
I did.
Oh, gosh. This is where they say, like, this is the other sort of application of you can lead someone to water, but you can't make them drink. There's more layers to these things these phrases that we know, but we don't think about. And it's like, somehow you got led to the appropriate information and you're like, no, thanks, got it from here. And it's just
Yeah.
No, you don't. I can't hear you because I'm working. You know, I'm EQing over here. Okay? So you know.
Yeah.
Take the rest of your advice and skip down the road.
Yeah.
It's not really a great way to do it, Otis.
No, it's not.
Maybe you should have, this is the part where I'm thinking like, okay, whatever YouTube video that got you into that frame of mind, maybe you should have watched also the subsequent YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like you should have stayed plugged in. You know what I mean? Like,
Gone a bit further.
like going to school and being like, did you know there's an ocean? And then you don't go back. It's just, I'm just going to make up in my mind how the ocean works.
Yeah.
I don't need to read page 2 of that textbook.
Yeah.
That's not a good look.
No, it's not.
For the record, doing stupid stuff does not ultimately result in you being Otis Jones. That's a damn miracle. Okay, so it's not how it works.
Yeah, no,
at all.
I think my video has frozen, but it's still kind of recording, but not really.
Okay, well we'll just stop the recordings and then start over.
Cool.
All right, that's me.
That's me. And then if you want to say some stuff.
So this is the sync for Otis's audio and video and Tony's camera. There you go.
Cool.
Did you hear it?
Yep.
Cool. So we're back from a little technical snafu. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. I don't know because I haven't gotten to edit this yet. So you were going to give us another embarrassing story about the rise of the one they call Otis Jones.
I think those were the worst ones. I think after the kind of 12 dB spikes, like 2 separate bands for each guitar. I think I started to be a bit more sensible.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I've done stuff like that recently, but I did it knowing what I was doing.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, for me it was like I was like, headroom? What's that?
I definitely went through that phase. Why can't you hear the drum and the bass at the same time? First of all, oh my gosh, I actually had a music class teacher ask me, aren't you gonna put a bass in your song? Like, it sounds good. Do you want to put a bass in there? And I'm like, I swear I was like, the drums? Like,
Mm.
what do you think drums are, bro?
No.
And that was a music class I was taking at Spelman College. Would have been helpful at the black all-girls school, all young women's school, to, actually know something about music. Women like music. Would have been a good look. I didn't learn how to use basses in my songs for over another year. Not joking. Because I had learned everything through rhythm, drums, rhythm.
Yeah.
And I really like letting the drums drive the bass of music, right?
Yeah.
I don't like them having this sort of disassociated relationship like I hear in some music.
Yeah.
And but it was the hardest thing to do, actually, turns out. One of the hardest things to do as a music engineer is to get drums and bass to play nice together.
Yeah.
Would have been good to start on that earlier. It's one of the last things that I worked out as a sound engineer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's no, I mean, all of the worst, most embarrassing things, apparently, that's ever happened to any internet music kid in this age happened to this dark-skinned, awesome black dude and that light-skinned, pretty, wannabe black dude. It's happened to us, both of us.
Yeah.
And so, and if we could be here and make what is Black Power and make sort of interesting music for Triggers and make that sort of just beautiful, dramatic, music for Playa, at least what we're, on the course to be making right now, and then make everything else we're going to make, if we could do it, and it does help to have sort of structural leadership that I research and am able to provide, so that we can grow. But really, ultimately, if we're going to share the leadership with everybody, then it really just becomes a question of if you choose to broaden your mind and your abilities enough to do the growth. Yeah. Right? Because over the course of these things, I'll be saying the same things to this camera that I said to Otis. And Otis will be saying some of those things because he's internalized those principles, and that would have enabled him to get really good. So if people believe that, if they like you, they believe in you, they're going to listen. Then the question is just, okay, so grow, like use this structure as an opportunity to, experience the expanse. Yeah. And, it's I mean, honestly, like, I really wish people understood this. Let me give you an example. I just want to say this real quick. I know I always say that like I haven't ever said anything in the whole conversation, but seriously. Let's say you and I don't release, which, by the way, if we don't release What is Black Power, we need to set each other on fire, because that's ridiculous. But let's say for some reason we don't release that album, and we don't put out another movie or whatever. I'm gonna give you a great example of a genuinely fulfilling thing that you get from being a great musician. Let's say you're in a relationship, man, woman, whatever you're into. More power to you. We support you. LGBTQ ally till I die. Let's say I'm a month into a relationship and I want to convince my significant other that they are, important to me. I don't care what the nature of the relationship. It'd be a booty call if I give a fuck. I value it. You know what? I'm going to make our booty call theme song. That is a genuinely beautiful thing to be able to do. To be able to create music for the purpose of just creating fulfillment within your own personal life. If you're able to just build yourself up enough to be able to do that on demand, that is valuable. The fact that the world doesn't teach you to value your contributions to your own life enough to value that is outrageous. You don't have to work for me or work with Otis or be famous or be rich for your music to matter or to be good, right? Because there's plenty of people who are on in the game who aren't that good. Like, there's plenty of records you and I hear and we don't think, oh man, we couldn't. Like, honestly, if you and me run in the studio, well, whoever just produced the new hit hip hop record, we could run them out the studio. It's not even close. Like, it would be like, oh, that's nice. Matter of fact, we could take that and make that hotter. Or we could make something over here that's with, the lyrics is hot and everything, but it's a complete song. The stuff you write is empty. It sounds good, but ain't no lyrics on it. Or, it doesn't ever change key, or it doesn't have any, there's no live instrumentation with, even though there's space for it in there. Like, the track isn't as full as it could be. Maybe it is a hot track, but you can't do it 20 times. We could create music 20 times over. But here's the thing. What makes me fulfilled as a musician, and hopefully you as well, is not the fact that we have a hit song. is not the fact that we have music in our own movies. It's the fact that we can make good music, period. No matter what we're doing it for. It has value that I can express myself that way on a date or to a friend or literally to myself. I made I think I want to say 6 albums that I never released. It's just for me. That's beautiful. That I heard those albums. Yeah. I respect the dude that made those albums. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want people to learn that about us. Is like the value and the real power that we have is that we understand our value and our power absent of whether you choose to acknowledge it or not.
Yeah.
And I want other people to have that too.
For sure.
So, and again, by the way, you know what that really helps with? A concept like pre-scoring. See? It doesn't mean make bad music because it's not necessarily designed for people to hear it. No. It's so valuable. Like, if you write a scene and then you get a track for that same scene, like a week later, a day later, or a few hours later, and then it's like that track, your scene was a minute long, but the track goes 3 minutes long, you can write the next 2 minutes of the movie. The whole next 2 pages could go to the beats of that track. That's fucking beautiful, yo. Like that's beautiful. And the person who made that music needs to understand the value that has. If they value your script enough to be making the music, then you, the screenwriter, should make sure they know that you value their contribution. And the two of you, even if you don't make work that ends up lighting the world on fire, you have had a moment in life that has value and beauty all on its own. And good music, good writing. And I'm talking about that. If you suck, that's you both need to grow. But when you do something good, which is where we're at, it's just, like I said, it's beautiful and it has value.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I know when this sea of the internet, it's like if you don't make a track that some fucking terrible artist or great artist or whatever finds online and puts you on, then that means that you suck. No, man, you could suck and get on, and you could also be great and never get the opportunity. But understand that music is unique in the fact that you really can. If Sade made a new album right now just for her kids, would that be less valuable than her highest selling album? Mm-hmm. If it was equally as good? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That mentality is going to get me, Otis, and hopefully you all through the deserts, the empty parts of the industry, which might be your whole non-existent career. It might just be the month before your big break, whatever. But the fact that you, Otis Jones, can make good music is a value that you hold. As long as you are able to think, as long as you are able to exercise that value, that is something that is valuable about you, that is not tarnished by how the world sees you, how your life turns out, whether you develop a disability at 25, 26 years old or not. You are still great. You still have a great skill. It's something that is, like I said, is beautiful and that the world needs. And I need people to understand that. 2 people who knew nothing and started off terrible, and we got really good because we cared enough to do so. And now we hold the value of that. And anybody else can do that if they're willing to work as hard. Please stop. So yeah, I just wanted to, because I understand what that's like, just looking at these people and you think they're so great and they're so much better. I don't think that, but I know other people do. They're so much better than you, and you could never do what they've done. You could do better than what they've done, because all they've done is just, spend most of their time on the internet trying to make you jealous. Me and Otis's life is better than that. We make movies. We make an album, like a crazy dope album with a dope name. What is Black Power? You know what the answer? Otis, tell them what the answer is. When they read the name of the album, what is Black Power? What's the answer?
You haven't told me what the answer was.
I did tell you. Oh, this is the answer. You just do that right there.
Ah, okay.
Thumb to the face. That's the answer.
Nice.
That even goes for the white allies. If you've attended a Black Lives Matter rally and you didn't do it ironically, you're an honorary member of the What is Black Power team. I don't know. Just give them that. Kind of looks like a thumbs up, but it's not. It's a pointing at your face.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't have anything else to say. Otis said he wasn't feeling very, good today, but I told him, show up with all of your depression and sadness, and it'll still be inspiring to people. I said it as a joke, but I think he still accomplished it. So, you remind me of the little white dude on the Mike Tyson video game when you did that at the end. The Nintendo game.
There's a Little Mac. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it little what?
Little Mac.
Little Mac.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Little Mac. Mike. It wasn't. Was it Little Mike?
I think Little Mac. Was it?
Little Mac. There it is.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Punch Out.
Oh my gosh! Why do you have to be white? That's what's so crazy. Like that's the fantasy. You get to knock out the biggest, baddest black man that ever lived. Anyway, did you have anything else you wanted to share? So we don't.
No. I think that's all good.
Otis has more secrets. He just literally just said he just doesn't want to share them. Shade. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say. Work harder. Fuck you. You're not working hard enough. Honestly. I told Otis he wasn't working hard enough. 2 years later, nobody had heard any of his hard work. And he still kept working hard. That's working hard. You ain't doing that. Get your game up. We knew nothing. We learned separately, came together, learned more, did even better. If we could do all that, and I did it with very little help. I don't know how much his mom helped, but I know we didn't have this handed to us. We earned it. We worked really hard for it to even earn the help from people. If we could do that, you could put in the time in that basement, in that bedroom, on that laptop, at your school, wherever, and learn and grow and get good at this. It's there for you.
Yeah, man.
Every 18 to 24 months since the invention of the internet, the average amount of information available, the amount of information available to the average human being has doubled. The internet is your friend. Get out there, learn. That's my last thing. Seriously. We live in an anti-intellectual world. But what do we always say? Power is knowledge. Information is power. Get some. When you're done with that, get some more. Shit. Like I said, get your work up. You're not working hard enough. I'm talking to you. You, and you. Young woman looks at this industry and know it don't want you. Are you a woman and you brown? Are you a woman and you already had a kid at a young age? You a woman and you already been sexually assaulted and you got damage and scars or whatever? Work harder. Get that shit up off you through your work. So when they look around and say, I need a track for it. I don't care where it comes from. When they get desperate, I don't care where it comes. I just need some good music. You already submitted some good music. Maybe they catch that in their emails. Work. Not saying it's your fault, but I'm saying the way that we fix this is we put the work in. So that the quality of what we do as the less favored, as the ostracized and the excluded, is significantly better than the mediocre people, that just won the white man lottery. I had to beat 3 other white men for this job. You didn't have to beat everybody, which means if I work harder than you, I'm better than you. You didn't have to beat me. You didn't. You know what I mean? You want to race before Jackie Robinson could run? That don't count. Beat Jackie. Then let's talk, right? Be Jackie. Work your butt off. Be ready for your opportunity because it's coming to us. It may not come to you personally, but it is coming for us, and you need to be prepared when the time comes. And we are personally going to be doing the work to try to make sure those opportunities come sooner than later for more of us. So what was that? That was like 10 seconds. That's my last little 10-second, just a little thing I threw out there, just shuffle the deck. That was quick. I ain't one of them dudes who take 30 minutes to shuffle a deck, Otis. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where you can go get food and come back and he still ain't dealt the cards. No. That was no more than 12 seconds. Okay. So yeah.
It's more time every time you say it. It's like no more than 15 seconds tops.
It couldn't have been because you know what? Because I have a good internal clock. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm in tune. I'm in rhythm with things. 18 seconds tops. All right, fine. You know what? They 20s, but I keep them clean though.
Yeah.
That's what you need to know. So, actually, no, it wasn't 20s. They were 15s, but I keep it clean. The point is, it don't matter how long it took, because there was knowledge right there. Bars, as my homie like to say, Chris. You know, he probably about to cry right now, because that's like every time you say bars, even if you heard it from somebody else, you're quoting Chris Carthern, because he say it way the flip too much to me. So bars. Nobody care if the verse was 8 bars or 28 bars. Man, I was dropping knowledge up in here. So yeah, anyway. One thing to remember about us, we're very humble. Nice guys. That's if you've taken nothing else from this. He's wearing non-threatening colors, and he's actually convincing you he's humble. And he and I are friends. Therefore, through the power of transference. There you go. But yes, anyway, I love this dude. Let's all join together in wishing him good health so we can selfishly get as much value out of him as possible. And you know, he'll be back on a better webcam for Beyond the Frame Playa in a couple months.
Yeah.
We're out. Oh wait! Look, hold on a second. Let me get my. Hold on. I don't want to mess nothing up. Let me get my hug.
Oh yeah. There we go.
My other best friend right there, by the way. Later.
And this was my first time I've been through pre-production, production, all the way through post-production to a completed project. So learned a lot along the way, especially with dealing with resources. I think I would say that's where I grew the most actually throughout this project, because we had to do a lot for this project to actually get completed.
Yeah, this is not my favorite topic in the world, first of all. Secondly, for some reason, my cats have decided that this is the first time since we moved into this new space that they're just going to be noisy and need attention and misbehave and everything and not listen to me when I communicate that I'm working. So there's going to be a lot of background noise, which messes up all the effort we put into this, you know, quality audio improvement representation situation, which is part of what Chris was just talking about. I mean, the work for Triggers is still ongoing as far from a quality perspective. And now my emotional support animals that are supposed to be, you know, helping me are, you don't even know what just the last literally 10 minutes was all about animals fighting and then making a lot of noise in the litter box and then making a lot of noise eating and then. So my apologies. I love them to death, but just in case something happens, there we go. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really learn as much. My thing is like, if you're gonna work with people, you got to understand that a lot of times people need to learn their own lessons and they need to, you know, have their own struggles so that they can sort of connect what's right with what's not, you know, from a lived perspective rather than just something they heard or something they learned. And so, you know, that's kind of a lot of what I've been going through is just sort of the experience of, you know, waiting on Chris to learn lessons I had already learned, you know. And,
right.
And Triggers was, and the crazy part was, ironically, the biggest lesson of Triggers was actually something I said early on, which is that we needed better post-production software and Chris needed to eventually move into audio. Like, those are the two things I said before Triggers. And that lesson didn't get learned until I want to say like a year and a half after Triggers was produced. You know, And that was honestly, that was really seriously from a professional perspective. Even with all the racism and ugliness and stuff that I went through in the beginning of my career, in the Hollywood part of my career, that was the worst stretch of my career, of my life. It was just depressing and very hurtful, just, emotionally, and, it was rough. But the lessons were learned. We upgraded the software, we upgraded the equipment, everything, and we were luckily able to reap the benefits even in triggers. We were able to go back and improve that movie. It just took so long, and like I said, did so much damage. And so, it's a thing of like, now, honestly, even though we've already shot 2 productions since then, we're still trying to separate ourselves from, and again, Chris and I have talked about this. We are speaking from the perspective of what, like you said, pre-production, production, post-production being completed. The horrors were all the first time we went through pre-production, production, and post-production on triggers. Or maybe even, let's say, the first time we did pre-production and production. And by the way, there's a pre-production, production, and production. Pre-production, production. And we went through post like 7 times, like probably more, because I think it was up to like 12. All of those were terrible. All of those experiences were like just disgustingly terrible. What you all are seeing is literally the last time we went through post-production of this movie.
Packaged product.
Right. We had a conversation about this yesterday, a long conversation about how emotionally almost traumatizing it was for me that the movie looks so good now, because there is no context for the experience that I had with the movie. Looks and sounds, like everything is so good. Like the scenes that had horrible audio, one of them got cut from the movie. The others are in the movie. Watson, please stop. Watson, Asher, come on. The other scene, the Mr. Shadow scene, unfortunately got cut from the movie. And by the way, the Mr. Shadow scene ties into Chris's comment about he didn't explain about Heather running for office. Mr. Shadow was the political advisor who was behind the campaign manager. He was her mentor, and he had a meeting with Peter directly, and he told him that eventually your daughter, this is after she died. Mr. Shadow's a horrible human being. He said eventually she would have unseated you. And this is sort of that, because Peter's a sociopath, this is sort of that, justification for what he needed to do, going on TV and saying the horrible thing he said at the end of the movie. When you want to subjectify people, when you want to act as if they're less than human, and when you want to yourself act like other people aren't people, you need to, it helps to have animosity or resentment toward them, even if they were your child, even if they were dead. And that was part of what he was feeding him, was the reality that his daughter would have been the person on her epic political rise. First thing she would have done would have been unseat her father, and it would have been easy. And so that scene with Mr. Shadow, which was very concise but really good, had horrible audio. We couldn't use it. Well, there's 2 other scenes in the movie that had audio almost as bad. Speaking of bad, hold on one second, please.
Whoa. Just jetted over the sofa there.
Yeah. So we had you saw the conversation.
This was my second time being on set, right? So
hold on a second. Let me just finish. So
okay,
the audio that was in the other scenes, we thought we were going to have to maybe cut those too, but they were so integral to parts of the story that I tried to make them work. And my point is to say, now the quality of that audio is so decent that literally no one would believe how it sounded before. So the context, and this is really important for producers, the context for our emotional struggle due to a success in post-production, investing a lot of money and time, it's gone. Like no one sees it, no one will care. It's completely gone. So if you're talking about producing a movie, the crazy thing is it's your job to see that production from its deepest struggles to a level of success where the struggle is no longer evident or apparent and therefore did not exist in an emotional sense in terms of connecting with the audience. And so it's just something, honestly, that only he and I connect on. Like nobody else is going to get how distressing.
I mean, it's not going to make sense. Like we were this close from just throwing it out. Like we were that.
Oh, to be
close.
honest, I was on the throw it out side.
That's true.
And Chris was on the stick it. But that being said, I was on the throw it out side before we had agreed to make the investment to improve it properly. And so after Chris was like, well, let's give it a shot. Then it was like, okay, what do we need to make it done right? But yeah, I was fully on the, I'm done with this. We got other work to do. I put too much of my life into this. This is depressing. Yeah.
And this was my second movie that I was on set for, right? And I'd never been in like any tight space. Like previous project that I was on set for, we didn't have any tight spaces that we recording audio and anything like that. So there were different things that I really wasn't aware of that Tony was. Like we had an AC right overhead during this Mr. Shadow scene. And he tried to cover it up.
I mean, it wasn't, to be
clear,
to
cover it up.
It wasn't just air conditioning. It was blowing really hard.
And we had no control over it.
But they didn't tell us that until after we were there. Then they told us we wouldn't be because it had all of the AC units on the entire floor for supposedly were all connected. They all had the same setting.
Ridiculous.
Right.
So, I mean, we tried to cover it up, tape.
Made it worse.
Do anything we could. I mean, seriously. I
actually think it made it better.
The tape started. Right. I think it went through the tape.
Yeah,
like, right,
that's the room where it made it worse.
Hard.
And we ended up taking it off. That's the Mr. Shadow room. But the room where we left it on was the interview at the end, and it was better.
Right. I mean, and we didn't know really how bad it was until later.
I did. I just didn't make it a big deal on set.
Gotcha.
But this was crazy.
Yeah,
the worst audio problem we had was when we went to Oklahoma to shoot the backyard scene with Gunnar and Heather, and it was literally like we knew it was stormy winds when we left Dallas, and we were like, make sure we have the cover for the mic for outside because we have the exterior scene and it's really windy and it's gonna be, the weather forecast says it's gonna be windy all day, and even if it's not windy, you still need that outdoors. And then we get to Oklahoma, multiple hour drive, and then we don't have it. And then the wind picked up when we were shooting that scene. So the mic is the whole time. The backyard audio is not ADR. That is the audio having been gone through post-production and post-processing. But I mean, to say that we had audio worse than that and it was recorded indoors is insane. Like, really think about what we just said. We took a boom mic outside, and air was just blowing like crazy off of the boom, and that was only the second worst audio recorded for the movie. Like, oh my gosh, the sadness inside of me was just, I mean, unbearable at times. So,
I mean, I think that this taught me kind of, if you have resources, prioritize really where your deficiencies are. And audio has always been there for Tony. Like I've heard him say this over and over. So that's exactly what we should have already been invested. We should have been invested in audio.
For the record, he's not speaking for both of us. He's talking about himself. Like,
true.
But that's the thing, though. It's like, if I don't let Chris... Now, not only did Chris learn that lesson, Chris took on the responsibility of being the audio guy. He literally does the audio recordings currently. He did it for the last two movies, for Playa and Confession.
Yeah.
And so it's not just as producers saying, well, we're going to make an investment. It wasn't just like, oh, we're going to buy the equipment. It was like, we're going to buy and operate the equipment too, and make sure that it is lined up with, the appropriate production methods so that we can maximize the quality of what we're producing and be responsible for it, hands on with it. And so, I'm listening to us and I'm thinking this could definitely sound like, I think you could take the perspective this like been just 10 straight minutes of like complaining about stuff, but it's really, this is the central lesson of Triggers.
That's a lot of growth for me.
Right. It wasn't, because before it was like, I know what Chris was thinking was like, well, we did make the investment. We got somebody who wants to do it well. We trained them between the movie prior and this one, spent time doing sound tests and training and, communicating these audio principles and how we want things done to them and yada, yada, yada. And then we set up a thing where we, not those office locations, but every other location, we should have been able to get really good audio. And so you're producing and putting people in a position to succeed. But that's just because that is enough. Idealistically, that does not mean that's enough practically. And on the practical side, not anywhere near enough was being done. And so that was the big sort of lesson of like, the craziest thing is, and this is what Chris will tell you, but I kind of want to say it just because of the way I want to say this. The enormous jump in audio quality, raw audio right off the set came from Chris. Just, we got this new mixer. We got this stuff, and the whole principle was only do it one way. Don't record the audio 20 different ways. Don't improvise. Just take it as it's been preset up for you. Always make sure you put the microphone in this position. Always make sure you put the lavs and, keep these principles and only do it that way. And I mean, instantaneously, there was this tremendous, rise in quality for Playa and Confessional. But the crazy part is Triggers, was like, okay, since this wasn't done on set, right? Since I didn't do that, you didn't do that. How do we fix that? And that's where the post-production plugins came in. And I'll tell you right now, I don't know when people are watching this. If you're watching this 10 years from now, go with whatever works. But the Isotope bundle, we bought literally everything. And RX, and RX-7 is the one we currently have. RX-8 just came out. Huge help. Turns out one of the people on the production had RX-5 and didn't tell anybody. I didn't even know about it, and I just stumbled across it one day on the internet. And within 5 minutes, I'm like, this is the quality. This machine learning of how to clean up. This is what we've been missing. This is the type of stuff that these post houses and studios have that's enabling them to have such better quality than us. It's not that they're smarter than us. It's not that they're better than us. They have better tools than we do. And right. we need to be, if you want to be serious about being the best, you need to be serious about having the best tools. And that was actually an inexpensive way to make a huge step forward. And it was expensive, but it was inexpensive by comparison to the quality increase that we were able to generate, knowing that we have the best tools and knowing how to play to the strengths of those tools. And so luckily, with a lot of hard work and time invested, we were able to go back to the beginning of the movie and reprocess all the audio for the entire movie, including some of like even the sound effects and sound design and stuff, because all of that stuff is also every single individual element is separate and manually done. And honestly, after being in post on a movie and killing myself for over a year and a half, it was unrecognizable within a matter of a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you sent me some test files, and I was like, "Wait,
this is the same file." I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Did you re-record?
Right.
It was that big of a difference. It was that big.
There's actually a scene in Beyond the Frame Triggers. The campaign manager scene, the second order thinking that just played actually right before, that scene sounded so bad. There's actually a couple of lines, if I'm not mistaken, that got cut out of that scene because they just did not get recorded well enough for us to use it. But if you heard the original recording of those files, it's hard to believe that those frequencies, the ones we ended up using, are even in there that much. Like, it just did not, I mean, it just did not sound good. And it was scary, man, but we came out the other side, and we want people to learn from this. Again, it's not bagging on any one person, or it's not complaining. It's just saying, like, you have to, if you want to, everything we're doing is about quality. It's not about, oh, we tried hard, or, oh, we have a good message. It's about quality. If you want quality to be the central premise and the central tenet of everything that you're doing, you have to have quality equipment. You have to have quality resources and tools, period. No one is good enough to compete with the Finchers of the world and eventually the Tony and Chris's of the world without putting together some sort of efficient matrix of tools that will enable you to call back the enormous quality and resource advantage that those people have over you.
The other investment we made in sound also is we bought studio sound mixing headphones and
Not these, but
speakers.
Yeah, the monitors.
Studios.
I mean, honestly, at this point, we bought literally everything. We got the speaker, we got this mic, we got the shotgun mic, we got the lavaliers. But none of that was used on triggers. None of it. So triggers was a good lesson, and I think obviously we need to talk about other stuff, but I think the audio naturally came out first because it's like, the other thing is when we shot triggers, there was no Mix Pre 3. There was no, 32-bit, basically raw recording for audio. Mm-hmm. And I was literally telling Chris the next revolution in the movie industry, in between the revolution of resolution and bit depth and everything, there's going to be a mini revolution of audio quality. When RAW comes to audio, that's going to be a huge, revolution, particularly for independent media. And I've been saying that for 4 years. And when the Mix Pre 3 came out, that was the very first audio recorder that was, and by the way, it was one of the cheapest ones on the market, and it recorded 32-bit float audio, which basically was RAW. And it was just like, it's night and day. It's the best recorder I've ever had. I've produced over 20 movies. That was by far, it was the cheapest mixer that had ever been used on any of my movies, and it was by far the best sound recording. And we first used that on Playa. So even how this was recorded, like the literal equipment, the audio was just so far behind video. Always has been. And from the time that people get to see this forward, that gap has closed in the most important way. It hasn't closed overall as much because there's just literally there's always more data in video than there is in audio. But audio has made a substantive step forward that is permanent and incredibly important. Like, you should not be recording anything for any of your projects on anything that doesn't have 32-bit, raw audio, a recording option, because and also a very high-end preamp, because when Sound Devices put that out, it also had their newest preamp in it. So it was like, it's the cheapest mixer you're selling, but it's got the two most important pieces of equipment in them. And people are prioritizing all this other stuff. And it's like, hold on, like, think about making an album. The first two things you want to know is what bit depth are we recording this at, and what's the quality of the preamp on the mic. Those are the two most important things in recording audio. And the cheapest mixer on the market, at the professional level, has the two best of those two things. Like, so there's no excuses anymore. Even if you can't afford to buy yourself a Mix Pre or whatever, the new equivalent is for that, you can definitely afford to rent one. There's literally no point in making a movie where you don't rent that is something of that quality as your mixer. There's no point, because you don't want to just do a good, to try hard. You want to actually start to learn what it means to do a good job and to work with good resources and work at a good level. And that's the minimum level. Everything else is just dive bombing into some degree of failure. Mm-hmm. And people can watch this and be like, that's not true. It is. And let me just say one thing. Call me whatever you want to call me. The fact that you wanted to say that that's not true is the reason why you will never be what I'm going to be. By the time you're watching this, it might be what I already am. So I'm quality all the time. I lived with that. I sacrificed everything in my life, literally, to increase the quality of this work and to raise the floor of what we can do. And if your floor is at that level of, raw audio and raw video, etc., your ceiling is significantly higher than, your average work will be significantly higher than what your ceiling would be with inferior equipment. So, that was a big lesson to learn. And another thing about it being expensive is expense is relative, A, and B, it's short term. It's not, you don't have to buy the same piece of equipment every year. You buy it one time, you take care of it, you own it. You rent it, you learn it, and then you're not working every day, and if you're working every day, you can afford to buy it. If you're not working every day, then, it's cheap to rent in short bursts. And so you got to get the best quality camera you can afford. You got to get the best quality audio you can afford. And then you got to live with that shit. I slept beside my Red Dragon, my Red cameras every night for the first probably 8 years I owned them. I literally slept no more than 3 feet away from those cameras every single night. There was a stretch of over a year where I left the camera put together in the house just to look at it and memorize that and just know every single detail of it. It was on the tripod, standing beside the bed all day, every day, even when I wasn't working, just to be that familiar with it, be able to turn it on and test something and do something and go outside and do test shots or whatever really quickly, because I wanted to be as familiar with that camera as I had gotten with my 7D. And I had a bruise on my chest after I got my 7D, because I would wear it around my neck constantly. And it would literally constantly. And it would bounce off my chest everywhere I went, go to the grocery store or whatever. And I had this imprint on my chest, this big bruise from the first couple of days of having that 7D just clubbing into me. But I learned that it didn't hit me that hard. It didn't damage it, but it was enough to bruise me. But I learned that thing inside and out, including the weight of it, the balance of it, everything. And so we have to, sorry about that, but we have to, I'm not saying you got to be manic about it, but I am saying that there is a relationship between what you put in and what you get out of your relationship with the equipment of this industry and with the tools of this industry. The more that you look to really know them, the more that you can do with them, and the higher the standard. Forget the peak, the higher the standard of your work is, the higher the average level of the work. And by the way, producers should not be technically ignorant. You cannot appropriately produce technical product if you don't know how it works.
And talking about resources, I think one of the biggest difference between major studios and what we have to do as indie movie makers is really be efficient with our resources, because we don't have $100 million to just throw at a project.
Right.
And how can we really, with our finite budget, make it through a full feature-length movie? And if you notice, Triggers, we had some really good news footage that we shot. We shot all that in a studio apartment that we were already paying renting.
Yeah, when I was living in, yeah.
Right? So it wasn't an increased expense. What we did, we had a green screen.
You can see it it's literally in the movie.
Yeah, it's in the movie. We had, the lights. The lights are very, relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
I think we rented C-Sands. I mean, all that was very efficient use of our resources to do that news, which is a major part of the movie. Yeah. And things like that are very important. And location-wise, we had some really good locations, and we try not to. We don't want to spend money on all our locations, right? That's
not all of them. Yeah, you want to make use of relationships and
relationships. Our main locations generally are what we're willing to pay for. That we're going to spend the majority of our time while shooting. And
well, to be clear, hold on. It's not that it's. I think you want to say we're not the things we're willing to spend the most on. Maybe a better way to say it.
Yeah.
You want to keep your money central to your actual physical presence. Like if you got $100 million budget and you spend $10 million on a scene that takes 10 seconds, That's ridiculous. You know, I don't
Right.
care how great your effects are. You need to spread. So, but if you've got a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that budget, goodness gracious, please stop. They're just all over the place. If you got a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that budget, you need to keep the proportion, right? So if you're going to shoot in the same, record in the same location for 10 days out of your 14 days, then invest the most money in that location, you know,
Yeah.
and by, you know, proportionately. It doesn't have to be 1-to-1 proportion, but it does need to be reasonable, right? So that you're maximizing the quality on the screen and correlating that with what you put into it, right? How often do you hear somebody say, "Oh my gosh, I made this movie and this one scene right here is so good, this effect, you're gonna love it." The movie is 99 minutes long and you talking to me about 2 minutes of the movie? Right? Like, so again, that's I think is because I don't want it to be like people think that it's not about not paying for things. And again, by the time people see this, hopefully we already have our budgets and stuff, but since it's self-financed, it's about not, I mean, I think it's more meant to say like not overpaying for things.
Yeah. If we're gonna spend 4 hours at a place, we don't want to spend a lot of money.
We're not going to spend $500 to record there
No.
when our budget is as small as it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, and also I think there's something to be said for having a product that presents value to people that you would like to get value from. So if it's like, oh, we'd like to record in your location and, you know, but we make social justice content and we make it at a very high quality. We're not wasting your time. It'll be, you know, it's not something that you would see later and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you know, that snuff film was shot in my, you know, my apartment or something, or in my restaurant. This is not like that. This is, you know, again, the aspiration and the technical know-how is significantly higher than that in value. And so when we're asking people to work with us, we're also giving them something that they want, you know, that some of them, you know, would want to be associated with, or, you know, that they can believe in or see some value in. And so it's very much, in our minds, that's the two-way street that we're trying to,
Right.
you know, maximize for everyone.
And especially now, I think now more people are trying to figure out ways how they can actually contribute to the movement and things like that. Let us use the location.
But that's if you agree that we are something that's positive for the movement.
Right.
See what I'm saying? Like that's, but you know, if some people may say, oh, I don't trust you, or I don't like your work or whatever, or blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. And by the way, we're never in a position where we need anyone to be involved for the movie to happen. Not ever. That falls on me and Chris. It's our job to make sure that we're doing something. Then we're not presenting people with the save us narrative. We're presenting them with the help us narrative. You know, it's not we can't do it without you. It's we can't do it this way without you. You know, we would like for it to be done at this level. We like this location for this reason. We like your presence. We like, you know, some value that you bring, and that enables us to take it from doing it the way we would otherwise have to do it to doing it the way we could do it with you.
Exactly.
No. And so there's, you know, we have to understand that, particularly if you're a person of color or a woman, I should say now a white person or a woman, this is uphill for you both ways. But you can't become focused on only your needs or only your desires, or I have to make this because I'm going to make it. And it still needs to be, I need other people to work with me. You know, you need to be creating a community in some sense, even if it's only temporary in the course of just getting this work done. Because what happens when the next person wants to record at the same location, if they've had bad experience with you, if you left holes in the wall, if you did whatever? Well, what if that business owner owns 10 businesses? Now nobody can use their 10 businesses, let alone the one. It just doesn't, it's you know, it really kills me. This screen is flickering, it's driving me crazy. Again, production quality, but it really kills me when people don't really think of the long-term effects of, you know, community. I've had, you know, mistakes made, you know, where I could have done better. And it's like, But I do remember that, and I do learn from that, and I do try to think about the bigger picture. And it's just frustrating to me that like we don't realize that we have that responsibility to each other, to the art form, to, you know, the movement of inclusion and representation and, you know, change and everything else. And so we have to, especially as producers, think of ourselves and our work within the vein of, you know, is it good for wherever you are for you to make a movie, or is it good for you to be a part of building up the movie making community? You see what I'm saying?
And I got an example of that for Triggers, actually. So we're getting ready to shoot the good guy with a gun scene, and the cast is also representative of us, right? And from the beginning, this person was the loudest person on the set. The entire time we had to say, hey, we're using this person's residence.
He was, to be more clear, he was the only loud person on the set because we don't have loud people on set.
That's true. And several times we say, hey, lower it down, like, be respectful.
I was all the way upstairs in the restroom, and I could hear every single word of what he was saying in a conversation in the kitchen. And I came down and told him that, and he looked at me like,
yeah. And then we had this safety presentation because we had a gun in the scene, because a good guy with a gun, and Tony's explaining how to be safe and how we're going to be safe, a real gun, and everything like that.
We don't believe in guns, etc.
You know, and explaining everything as you're supposed to do. Prop gun. And he takes it and he's taking it apart. He's doing things he's not supposed to do. And Tony explains, hey, this is not what you do for the record.
Right.
And
he didn't take it apart. He that's where the big point of contention was. After I said, chill out, then he was like, oh, I want to take it apart. And I'm like,
I'm responsible for all of it. We're responsible for all this. This is our production. We have the responsibility, right? And
it's kind of hard to be clear. I still feel like we're not painting. This picture is not being painted about the level of conflict and animosity and stuff there was.
If we paint it the way if we actually shot this, people would say we're being over dramatic.
Right.
There's no way.
Why would you make that person look that bad, kind of a thing?
No, seriously. I mean, when I say we're downstairs and he got fired, we're all downstairs. He stomped, grown man, stomped all the way to the stairs, stomped
in someone else's home. This is not my house. This is not Chris's house.
Stumped all the way up to the stairs, and then he had to walk down a long hallway to the room where his things were. So then he stumped all the way into this room. You hear him breathing, and we're all quieted. No one is saying anything.
A single word.
So we can hear all, and then he grabs his stuff, does the same stomp march down the stairs, past us. He had to walk past us because we were actually near the door.
We were having a meeting in the foyer right in front of the front door.
Like, there's no way we can actually portray what actually happened.
By the way, Chris, you forgot to mention that he was doing all that talking and everything without having literally memorized any of his lines.
Oh my goodness.
Again, that's what I'm saying. The picture isn't really painted. He literally,
that's true.
He had been hired the day before as a last minute replacement, but he literally, because I asked him when I came down when he was talking loudly, I directly said to him, I'm like, so this means, all of this means that you memorize all the lines, right? And he looked at me like, why would you assume that? Mm-hmm. And I was like, you haven't memorized the lines. Yeah. And he's like, I'm like, stop talking, read the script.
Yep.
After that is when I went upstairs to the bathroom and he was all this talking and everything. And he still didn't get fired for that. I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how do I shoot this scene, which is all supposed to be one continuous take. If you've seen the movie, you understand, of him driving home, getting to his home, deciding he's going to be the hero, literally calling himself the good guy with the gun, and going in. And it was originally two characters. It was a white guy and his black friend. And then we, combined it into one character for this white actor. And then later I ended up having to replace him and do it all myself. But I'm trying to figure out, instead of just firing a dude, I'm like, how can I make this work? For him, because he doesn't know the lines and he doesn't know like, how can I be creative? And, and it just went to, and by the way, he He gets fired. We're still in the house. We got a makeup artist that's putting, this makeup on this young woman. I don't want to say what happened, but it's like, we're invested in all this. We got a Harley in the garage, and your behavior, obviously they're not going to have us back. So I'm like, look, let's still shoot the garage portion. So, and I said, I'll do it. I'll do the heavy breathing myself. And I make sure I have on some like analogous clothes, right? And then like my pants, because I knew we would see my pants and shoes, and then we'll try to match the pants with whoever we cast in the role. And so I stepped in and did the voiceover with my broken cell phone camera, by the way, of the entrance into the garage and finding out what happened in there. Not going to say what. With the full intention of someone else coming in and doing the top of that scene. And then the cut would just be on the moment when the camera flips from being a POV to, being a selfie to a point of view. And, but yeah, I mean, it's a really bad experience. And I guess, what's the conclusion that you want to take away from that situation? Because we're talking a long time right now.
I'll just give an example of now this person, I don't want anyone else coming to shoot here because what was represented.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I told the story, because it's like
how loud we were in their home. And I actually asked her if volume was a problem, and she said no. But then we had gotten that location through the lead actor in the movie, and she later told him that we were too loud, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, I directly told these people these things. And the other thing is, like, I'm also the director of the movie, but even in any one of my individual capacities as a crew member on this movie, when I tell you to be quiet, you should do what I said. It's a mutual respect thing, and that wasn't present. And again, yeah, we got a little bit of content. We had to shoot the house interior in a different house later, but the community thing was gone. That did, right. And that's not good. This homeowner was a friend of, one of the actors in the movie. We want positive experiences for as many people as possible with this process so that they can help encourage other people, when they need an opportunity or some help. And if we don't do that, we're failing ourselves, and we're limiting our own resources in the long run. And so, again, we just, it's not to say that I've been perfect. I haven't. I had a lot of stresses on me that didn't get expressed in, the best way, particularly early on in my career. But I do have perspective, and I am willing, particularly every moment is an opportunity to stop and reassess what you're doing as a producer, as a director, as a sound person, as a cinematographer, whatever, as an editor. To every single moment literally is an opportunity to be on the right path. And if we don't take that, we're not doing ourselves any favors. And I think this, Beyond the Frame Triggers, this is just an introduction. It's not as detailed in the exact processes as the rest of them will be, but since we're doing so many of them back to back to catch up, we will be able to get more into the weeds in the next one. So this first one, Triggers, it's just like the introduction, but we're having technical problems and all kinds of stuff. But it's good to just kind of let people know, like, with all, believe it or not, we really do know what we're doing. We do have experience, good and bad. And this is a place you can come to learn something. But if you don't get yet that the most important thing is your mindset and your willingness to sacrifice, you're not going to, no point trying to learn here. Because everything we're doing is based around that. Even what I'm talking about building community is second order thinking. Don't just think about your immediate need or want or concern or desire. Also think about the consequences of said decision. And that's written in every single thing we do, both literally written into the scripts, characters, etc., as well as, figuratively and otherwise, like just in the long-term thinking. And we want to build something. We want this industry to be proportionately representational. We want non-white people, women, etc., to have representation that is equal to, at minimum equal to, if not greater than, their percentage of the population. And the way to get there, the fastest, most efficient, and most long-term successful way to get there is to have undeniable quality to your work. But that quality in the work should also be tied to the quality in your character and perspective. So, to me, if you can't produce that within yourself, I personally don't care about what you can produce on screen.
Right.
So, but I mean, honestly, I don't know what else we really need to say. I mean, I will say that for all the ups and downs of the movie, I enjoyed the challenge, and I am very well aware that it is sorry, I'm needing it won't let me do it. That's not good. My recording might mess up here, but I'm very well aware that it is a what's the word? Privilege. It's a privilege to have put ourselves in the position to get to do this work. And I hope that people who watch this and aim to learn something from it understand that you are working hard and sacrificing to give yourself the privilege to do this work. It's not just, even if you deserve it, you are still privileged to have it. And you need to address it that way. The sun has risen, by the way. It just destroyed my little...
Just got bright. It just got really...
Cinematography is a wrap. What about you, Chris?
I mean, the experience for Triggers was... There's certain things I wouldn't do again. I'm not going through this process again, year and a half to finish the movie. That's not, no.
It was more than that, but yeah.
But I just, no, that ship is sailed. I guess it was like, I felt like we needed to prove that we could do it. You know what I mean? Because every time we saw, we're gonna make high quality movies, and everybody's like, well, have you done it yet? And that's you know, that's how I think people think. You know, you don't have anything to show for it. And I think I was really like, we got to get through this one. We went through a few other projects. I just felt like it. We got to get one. We needed one. And I think the experience of this is the first time. We also went through festivals, got awards. So I think that
particularly
was,
overseas, did much better
overseas.
Outside of the United States with Triggers.
And I felt like we proved that we can make a movie high quality, and it also has social injustice. You know, we represented we had a purpose behind the movie. It's high quality, and we didn't have, you know, quote unquote, industry help. We didn't have any industry help, self-finance. And so we have proven that we can actually do this together.
Yeah. And by the way, this quality is the floor, not the ceiling. It will never be.
Yeah.
This won't be considered high quality from us, you know, moving forward. But yeah, I'm about to. My space is getting short. So again, we'll be back very soon. We'll also have a couple of addendum videos to go along with this to just explain more detail, certain things about Triggers. But just get ready and be ready to sacrifice and be ready to, you know, grow, because, you know, again, if you can't produce a better person right here, you can't produce projections of better things on the screen, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that was, you know, also that's my best friend, by the way.
Hey,
love that dude.
Always.
My final thoughts about making music for movies, or scoring movies is probably a better word to use, is that a lot of it is about confidence in your own abilities, and kind of being able to put yourself out there, not just because it's like, you know, a good thing to do for yourself, but also to like the director and everyone else involved. It's, you know, you have something of value that is not only like, it's not just nice to have, it's kind of essential in a lot of ways. And so to be able to kind of influence the direction of a movie with your music, with what you have to offer, it's a very important aspect, and something that you should strive for to kind of keep that maintain a level of confidence in your own abilities, so that people can so that they can kind of lean on you almost, so that they know that they can rely on you to bring something to the table. If there are areas that are struggling in terms of inspiration or anything, you've got something that you can give to the production, and also knowing that the music you're making, that is music, that is movie music. It's not movie music isn't necessarily a genre within itself. You can get music that's more cinematic, and there's certain, like I said earlier, there's certain types of music that we associate with movies, but any music that you're making for a movie that you're working on, that becomes movie music, regardless of what genre it is or instruments you're using, the chords that you're playing or not playing or anything else. Whatever you make is the music that needs to be made for whatever it is that you're doing. Have confidence in that, in yourself, and that's 90% of the success that you'll need, I think.
My final thoughts. So people think that making movies is all about having fun and, it's all exciting. Yeah, it can be fun sometimes. And I do have the privilege of working with my best friend, Tony, and people that I love, Otis. But making movies at the indie level especially, it's a lot of hard work. It's very stressful, expensive, and time-consuming. It's something that you really have to commit to and be in it for the long haul. You gotta be prepared to fail. We failed a lot. But we've grown through each failure, and just how we kind of told you ways that we failed in this movie, Tony kind of told me the same ways he failed, but I still needed to experience that failure myself and grow and learn from it. And you're gonna have to do the same thing. Sometimes it's not even gonna be your fault. We had to reshoot drone footage and triggers 4 or 5 times, and it was because it was a fault in the drone. It had nothing to do with the drone operator at all. So be prepared to deal with some frustrations. You're gonna need to always go back to keep in perspective. Always stay committed to it and be in it for the long haul. We've covered a lot of high level topics here that we're gonna expand on, in future movies. But as we mentioned before, our goal with Beyond the Frame is to increase the quality, help you guys pass on knowledge for some indie movie makers, because we need to see more diverse stories and content, because this industry is seriously lacking in that. And that's what we're trying to build here. Hopefully you found this video information helpful. Until next time, peace.
I'm gonna start over. Oh, I didn't even clap. Hold on. Second sticks. You want to do them parallel to camera. It's easier to see that clap point on the edit. See, boom. I prefer the snap, but whatever. So I made some notes. You can see there on things that I said that I wanted to correct in my narration. Point 1, I only said one time, oh, this is my favorite track, and that was true. That was for a track that was in the movie, inside of the bounds of the movie. The credits track is too beautiful to be denied. I mean, come on, that's why it's repeating right now. I love that track. Not to say that I don't love the others, or the other one. I also love the first Don't Trust Him track when he walks in. It's the big one, because there's actually 2 different versions. Anyway, the point, listen. This one was embarrassing, because if you heard it, you're probably like, wait, what did he say? I don't think he knows what that word means. I do know what egalitarian means, and what I meant to say was he thinks I'm an anti-egalitarian, but because I am an egalitarian person, that's part of my, worldview. So I meant to say anti-egalitarian when I said egalitarian earlier. So if you caught that, good, congratulations. And, maybe don't be so judgmental. You know what I mean? I'm joking. Good for you. And then I said, actually, I think I cut that one out because it pissed me off so much. But I'm not even going to address that one, but just give me a break on the little stuff, please, a little bit. Just a little bit of a break. I don't want a big break. I want you to have high expectations. And then also, I purposefully put the sections in a random order because I want people to understand that, like, to be honest with you, if you come in here and you're like, oh, I want to learn about composing, you need to learn about everything, Otis said, as someone who doesn't know a lot about making a movie, he still doesn't know a lot, but he knows a lot more than he used to. And he was kind of always speaking in a sort of like first sort of his first sort of process of this, and sort of speaking from where he is now in the context of where he started. He didn't know a lot then, but he knows more. And if you come in here and say, oh, I want to learn how to edit, no matter what you want to do, you need to know how to do everything else. There is no way that makes you worse at the job that you're trying to do. It makes you better. And so that's why they're in a random order. I could have put them in some sort of, chronological order in terms of how, when the jobs get done. But no. You need to know how to do everything. Don't try to just learn one thing, right? Being specialized is cool, but specialty is what you do. It's not what you know. You see? Specialized knowledge is lacking knowledge. Right? I only know what's in this book. I don't know what, these 20 other books are contradicted. Don't know anything about that. That's not being intelligent, right? It's knowing all of the factors that play into the issue, and maybe your job is to be responsible for these, handful of factors. But you should have a very, very good, deep, if you will, even, knowledge of all of those factors. So anyway, that's why they're in the random order. I think that's very important. The only other thing I want to say, I did a podcast interview recently where I said about black people, but I meant about all people. Black people, women, LGBTQ people, all non-straight white men people. We are doing enough to show that we deserve equality. We deserve equal representation. We deserve equal, proportional, I should say, representation, proportional, equity to our, proportion of the population. We are not doing enough to deal with the fact that isn't happening. See, those are two different things, right? So in this work, we're not just trying to say, hey, we're human, hey, we deserve it. No, because that's something for you to change, you see? That's something for the powers that be, the exclusively and overrepresented white men, to say, oh, we're gonna fire ourselves and hire other people and then give them power to fire us because that's how this should be going. That's for them to do. See, in terms of them realizing that they need to give other people equity, they need to give other people equality. We've done enough to deserve that and to show that. We haven't done enough to take it from them for ourselves. See, what we do to establish our humanity and our value is one thing. What we do in defense of the fact that we are not being treated as human and we are not being valued is something entirely different. And on one side, we're doing more than enough. And on this other side, we're not doing anything. Nowhere near enough. And so I want people to take this information and this sort of energy and use it to, you gotta understand that the greatest tool for social change in the history of humanity is the camera, okay? The only reason that people now believe that Black Lives Matter and they believe what the message of Black Lives Matter is because we had video cameras to record what was being done to us. That's it. Audio recordings wouldn't have done it. It's the camera. So this industry is the greatest tool for change, which is why it's also one of the most white supremacist and most, sort of ingrained institutions of keeping institutionalized power, keeping us, like I said, gay people, women, etc., out of power, out of representation. So I don't want you all to come here to be an artist. Fuck that. With all due respect, we don't have the privilege for that. Come here to do the work. Come here to be an activist. Come here to create change. Leave the art for the next generation or the generation after that can, do art on the shoulders of the equality that's come from you doing the work. So again, that's what we're here to do. We're here to create permanent change. And we're not saying, oh, hey, please give it to us. No, you missed the point. We deserve it. We know you're not going to give it to us. We're building it for ourselves. As this series progresses over the years, the size and scope and quality of what we're doing will increase as well. It's Mystery Dinner Studios for a reason. We're here now. Know our name. Give us our respect. Give us our awards. Give us our money. And get the hell out of our way.